My name is Wendy Kane. I also work for Community Legal Aid. I work in doing administrative benefits, elder law, and Medicare law. I occasionally also represent clients who are seeking emergency assistance. Last week, this is a letter to you, Mr. Gorstein. Last week, I was asked to intervene on behalf of a homeless family by a community agency representing the town of Amherst, Massachusetts. This family of 6 had been living in their car for days until the town put them up in a local motel. The town could not continue to house the family and only had a few days before the family would have to leave the shelter the town had provided. Earlier, the family had given notice to their old landlord in the eastern part of the state to move into an apartment here in Western Mass using their Section 8 housing voucher in order to be closer to their only remaining family. But when they arrived, they were told that the apartment was no longer available. Tragically, by then, they could not return to their old apartment and were left with nowhere to stay while looking for a new apartment. When they inquired about emergency shelter at DHCD, they were told they were not eligible, so did not file an application. At first, the family stayed with a mother's sister in Northampton until the sister learned her own tenancy was at risk by having this homeless family staying with her. With nowhere else to go, the family began to sleep in their car, staying in rest areas off the side of highways. During this time, this family of 6 continued to look for a new apartment. The family found a new apartment, but could not move in until the apartment had been inspected by HAP. And they were told that that would take time, perhaps, in fact, up to 2 weeks. I advised the family that they could reapply for emergency shelter at DHCD, and they did so at the Holyoke DHCD office. But they were told that they had abandoned their subsidized housing and were denied. We believe this was an error by DHCD because the family was simply exercising their rights to use the mobility features of their Section 8 voucher, which promotes fair housing, a goal the department says it tries to facilitate. Through advocacy and community connections, the family's inspection was moved up by HAP, and with HAP's assistance, the family was briefly housed in a motel until their new apartment was inspected and available to them. It is our understanding that HAP can only do this type of intervention until the end of November, and then all of the available funds expire. The town of Amherst paid for 11 days in a motel for this family. This was an unnecessary expense that the town of Amherst incurred, and we believe the state should have met. Foresight, can't you? More importantly, the trauma to the children who had to sleep in a car for nights before the town was able to help them was unnecessary and unconscionable. These family transfers of subsidies require a perfect coordination between agencies, but do not always go smoothly, and the family should not have been penalized for having been found to have abandoned housing. Even if the reason for the denial was not incorrect, this family would not have been sheltered immediately under the new regulations, which demand the family such as this one stay in places not meant for human habitation before being found eligible. This new eligibility requirement adds a frightening layer to an already desperate situation for families. Please eliminate this requirement and instead find that the imminent risk of having to stay in such a place qualifies the family for eligibility for emergency shelter. Thank you.